Homeowners could pay more as Congress takes tax reform. Solid information about 1031 exchanges is online. And does kitchen remodeling add value? The research is in. These stories and more on The Voice for Real Estate. Hi, I'm Stephen Gasquet with the National Association of Realtors. The Trump administration and the Republican leadership in Congress have released a tax reform framework, and it's not good for homeowners.
This unified framework delivers a new tax code that is simple, that is fair, that is pro-growth and pro-family.
First, although the plan leaves the mortgage interest deduction in place, only the wealthiest homeowners would continue to itemize. That's because most of the other deductions, including the one for property taxes and other state and local taxes, would be eliminated. As a result, most homeowners would take the standard deduction. And while that would be almost doubled to $24,000 for a married couple, most would still see their taxes go up. The reason that higher deduction would be offset by the elimination of the personal exemption and other exemptions for dependents. Looking at the big picture, the changes would erase any difference between owning and renting in our nation's tax code. NAR hosted a Facebook Live event to talk about why the plan does not work for real estate.
So thinking about the standard deduction piece, you mentioned that there's a doubling or a near doubling of the standard deduction. I have to imagine there's a couple of people watching this thinking that could potentially mean more money in my pocket. So why does NAR have an issue with that?
It sounds like a good thing. There are two reasons why it's a problem, though. First off, doubling the standard deduction saps away the incentive value of things like the mortgage interest deduction and the property tax deduction, which are both used to incentivize people to go from renting to buying a home. Secondly, this is not a true doubling of the standard deduction. Instead, it's a substitute of a higher standard deduction and a taking away of the personal exemptions and the dependency exemptions. So for many people, particularly larger families, it's a raw deal. They're going to end up paying more tax instead of less tax.
NAR has launched a comprehensive advocacy plan to make sure lawmakers know a tax plan that leaves most homeowners worse off will be vigorously opposed by realtors. It's one of the most important provisions for commercial real estate, the 1031 like-kind exchange. It helps people build wealth over time by letting them defer taxes on the sale of investment property. They can then roll their entire profit into their next property, generating a return on money that otherwise would have been lost to taxes. Two veteran real estate professionals sat down with NAR to talk about the best way to structure these deals.
I've had clients go and actually close on a piece of property and they say, I'm going to do an exchange. I said, no, you can't. It's too late. You cannot close on the property. When you contract it, you have to have a way to ultimately have the contract be in the name of the qualified intermediary. You can put it in your own name. Just make sure you have the ability to assign the contract to somebody that's approved by the seller.
You can access that entire conversation on NAR's YouTube page. No one knows better than a real estate professional the value of a quality remodeling project at resale. That's why NAR is partnering with the National Association of the Remodeling Industry to identify which projects generate the biggest return for home sellers. In a report that looks at 20 interior and exterior projects, new and resurfaced hardwood floors generate the most value, typically returning all or nearly all of the cost. Kitchen remodels are also smart investments. Here's NAR's Jessica Lautz with more.
So this report is great because it gives us not only what consumers think about a project when they're done with it, but it also looks at the increased costs recovered on projects as well. Refinishing your hardwood floors, putting in new floors, things that really shine and you're going to appreciate every day walking in, that buyer coming into your home will also appreciate them.
This new report is a resource you can share with your customers to help them make decisions that can improve the value of their homes. Demand for homes remains high, but sales are stalled because buyers have little to choose from, and prices are getting too high for many households. In NAR's latest pending home sales survey, contract signings declined almost 3%, and little relief is in sight, according to NAR chief economist Lawrence Yun.
If one looks at the pending sales data, one is seeing sales contract declines in all 4 major regions, which is implying that it is not only about hurricanes, but broad economic and other factors, and that other factors are inventory shortage and consequently home prices rising much strongly compared to people's income growth, and affordability challenges is holding back the buying opportunity.
NAR predicts sales to be down slightly this year because of the inventory crunch and also the impact of the hurricanes, although many of those sales that were lost due to the storms are expected to happen next year. And of course, those hurricanes have captured the national attention this season, but natural disasters can strike anywhere. Recently, many parts of California, Montana, and Washington have been hit by massive wildfires. When these disasters strike, safety is the #1 priority. But when it comes time to turn your attention to pending transactions, how do you pick up the pieces? NAR Associate Counsel Jessica Edgerton answers that question in the latest Window to the Law video.
When a property under contract has been damaged or destroyed, review the purchase agreement with your client and pay special attention to provisions addressing pre-closing property damage, force majeure or acts of God, and changes to the closing date. Separate from contractual considerations, be aware that your state's laws may dictate which party, the seller or the buyer, bears the risk of loss during the pendency of a transaction, and be sure to consult with your attorney if there is any ambiguity as to the interpretation of the purchase agreement, a desire to amend the existing agreement, or a question about compliance with state law.
You can access that and other legal videos on NAR's YouTube channel. Have you registered for the Realtors Conference and Expo in Chicago? It starts in just a few weeks, and we'll be reporting, of course, from the show. Tune into the next edition of The Voice for Real Estate to hear all the news coming out of the 5-day event, the biggest real estate conference in the country. We hope to see you there. And that's our show for the week of October 16th. You can get more on everything we talked about today at the Voice for Real Estate page on nar.realtor. Thank you for joining us, and be sure to join us again as we bring you the latest news on The Voice for Real Estate. Brought to you by the National Association of Realtors, your advocate for housing and property rights in Washington, across America, and in your neighborhood. This is The Voice for Real Estate.